my screen. Okay, I think Sam is back on. All right. So Sam, I'll come after you. Sorry, we lost you.
Yeah, it was a demonstration. If you close your computer, the agent dies with it, and we just saw it. When I closed the computer, we lost connection. When I closed the computer, we all lost connection. I had to log in. Thank goodness I'm the host of this, Zoom call. So I was, able to, start, the meeting, and thank goodness also that this meeting has been set in such a way that anyone can join without me having to be there. All right. But just imagine if I had to like like a, this this was a one-off Zoom link, right? That's it. That means the meeting ends, and we have to create new you know we have to create the and then what do you mean kind of models run offline? So you need be careful to answer this thing. If you're running it locally, right? If you are running like an open source model locally, and you are doing what we call inference, asking your questions, getting back answers, asking, making a request, getting back, solutions and answers in the form of, text or something. You make a request, maybe you write a paragraph, or maybe you write, a two-page, document about the current state of AI in developing countries, right? These are all requests that you're making. Right. So if you're running a local model that doesn't really need to do web searching, right? If you want to do web search on Chrome or Google, you need internet to be able to do that, right? So if you want to do web search and you just making requests that can use local resources and aids a local model, it's gonna run. Now, if you want to serve a model to other people, you need the internet because the thing on your computer needs to be able to travel, somewhere else across, the globe, something, right? And this is what I meant, right? So with that, I think we gonna pause here and we give the room for people to explore and create. I don't have a project for you on this, but I could do that. All right. So the next thing I would want us to really talk about, and I think this is supposed to be be a discussion, right, rather than a lecture. So I'll be asking questions. As you could see, there are no pictures, images here, which is very quite unusual. But I'll be engaging your mind, and I would want you to give me your mind for a few minutes, okay? Because this is something we have to do. And it sort of like creates the foundation for um, the things that we'll be seeing later on. Okay. Um, Depending on where you were trained, you may have seen some of these things already, and depending on your level of training, you may have come across some of these things already. You may you have definitely come across some of these things, but probably you are also not actively thinking about it because like it's not really clear. We live in a world of high abstraction, so it's a little bit challenging. And the question I want to pose, I mean, the answer is already here, but basically, yeah, the question I want us to really think about, it's what is a model? We've been hearing about models, being drummed into our ears like 10 million times already for the past 2 to 3 years. What is a model? Linear model is a model. What else? What is a model? Right. And this is my simple um, explanation of it. I haven't looked through Wikipedia or something. This is just stream of thoughts, right? Based on my discussion with um, some members here. So this is my definition for it. It is our imagination of the world, right? It's our imagination or the perceived, imagination of the world, right? It could be about observations or processes, okay? And some of the observations, could be, this. I can, be like, how many people are on this, Zoom call? It's around, 20, 26. Based on this information and previous weeks' attendance, can I make a claim about how many people will join next week's, meeting? It might be off by maybe, 5 or 10, depending on how this today's section goes or end. Maybe like something I said. Maybe you're really interested in something I said. You may join or not. So the process of you deciding to join the Zoom meeting next week, it's something that could also be modeled. And I might not be thinking about it consciously, but I think that's something you could capture about okay. So let's go back. What is a model again? It is our imagination of the world. It could be about an observation or a process or a phenomena. Right. There was a time where we all thought the sun was rotating about the earth. Right. So the sun was moving around the earth. And this got disproved by observation, I think with the invention of the telescope also, and it got disproved. And now we have a model of the planetary system where we all agree that the Earth is rather moving around the sun, in addition to other 9 planets in our planetary system. Right. So this is an observation, and you could actually model this. Okay. Now there has to be a way to really communicate models, right? So this is my perception. This is my imagination about this observation. You may or you may not see it. There has to be a way for me to communicate that to you. Now I can put it in writing, like like a PowerPoint in a document. I can put it in a text in a document, and use words like this, English words, standard 26 alphabets. I could also put it in writing and basically write this in French or like Italian or Arabic, something. And I could transmit this information to you or to like other scientists that are engaged in thinking about this. There has to be a way of communicating the model. I could also summarize this information in a conventional way, and write the model in a form of like symbols, and I could write this like using standard mathematical notations, right? So we could convey this information across cultures, across groups, across different people using standard mathematic notations, right? So we can represent models with words, which could be very, 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 very long, or we could describe it concisely with mathematics, and even describe the process of the model with mathematics. So this is why I think mathematics, it's quite important. It is a language. If you understand, you understand. It is a language. If you do not understand, you could also ask ChatGPT to really explain the mathematics to you. It is a language, and it is also an accounting system, so that you are able to keep track of things that change, right? You're able to keep track of all this kind of things. The height of all males in this Zoom meeting, you could have a model for it. I would say the height, it's probably similar across this group. The height of all women in this group follows a model. The height of all kids below, like between the age of maybe 16 to 18, follows a particular distribution. Okay, and that's a model. Okay, so next item we could talk about, it's foundation model. I'm not the expert in this, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try a little. I haven't created a foundation model of my own, but this is just my way of really thinking about what's really happening before I even dig my hands into a foundation model. What is foundation? Foundation, it's not the finished product. If you are trying to build a house and you know, dig the earth, right? And, probably lay some cement, lay some bricks, and create the foundation, solid, foundation, right? Are you done? Of course not, right? The goal is to be able to build, a structure. There's a question. Okay, thanks for your feedback. The goal is to be able to build a structure, whether it's for residents sleeping, whether it's for business, right? So people come and buy and sell things. Like what type of business is it? More of a computer related like business? Is it more of buying and selling commerce? Is it stock trading with lots of screens? um what kind of enterprise? Is it a lab? Is it a school? Something. All right, you're not done until you put up the entire structure. All right, so the lentils, you do the roofing, you do some finishing. Some people would want like like large glass windows. Yeah, some people may put like security doors with code. And some people would also prefer lock and key doors. All right, we have a question. So I would I would argue that a foundation model, it's not really complete, and there are some things you could do in addition to the foundation model to get to your expected end. Your expected end is to build a structure for a particular purpose. You can build a 6-story building, multi-use
I just
6-story
want to, by the
building.
way, just see everybody has I know inside. Right?
Sorry.
Okay. Nobody says only me. This for the other people.
Maybe good time to make. Okay, co-host. Okay, all right, that's great. Um, right. So you you could have like a multi-story building for multiple purposes. Or you could even have a multi-story building just for residents, but have different people living. Whatever people do in in their rooms, that's none of my business. But I'm meeting that need of building a story building for residents or maybe like multi-use. All right. I'm gonna pose another question to you. Are all foundations like do all foundations of a building need to be the same? I'm gonna rephrase the question. Do I need to use the same foundation I'm using for a one bedroom apartment? The same as I'm gonna build maybe like a 6-story building. Do those foundation Will those foundation be the same or similar? Are they gonna be the same? Someone says no. Right. What will be different from a 6-story building's foundation versus a 1-bedroom foundation? What will be the difference? Can you tell me?
Well, the depth, the six-story building would need more depth. As in the foundation will need more depth because you are building higher, and so you need more like a root, like a tree. You need more roots downwards, going very down to the earth, so it can sustain the building, something like that.
Great, great, great. This is great. A 6-story building needs more depth, need more foundational depth, right? And breadth, maybe, compared to, like a 1-bedroom apartment, right? That is true. That's something, that is true. Another question I have for you. Two 6 bedrooms, right? Sorry, two 6-story, building. I want to build 2-story buildings, and I have in mind that I want to build one. I want to construct one of the story buildings. Uh, it's not high. 1 bedroom will cost less than 6 bedroom. That's correct. That is true. That is true. Yeah, 1 bedroom will cost more than 6 bedroom. Okay. There is another, like example I want to ask of you. I want to build like a 6 bedroom, um, a 6 story, bedroom. I have, the capital to be able to construct two of this, story building. And I'm thinking of a beach, front, house. I'm thinking of a beachfront house. And like, one in the mainland. Do you think the foundations will be the same for the same, like, like the same 6-story? I hope I'm not losing you. Right. So 6-story building, 6 floors, 6, 7 floors. I want to make two of this. One around, the beach, ocean front, and then, one in the mainland. Right. Would the foundations be the same? Would the cost to construct the same, buildings be the same at the ocean front versus the mainland? Another response, please. Can someone please continue? Because someone also repeats, the question, so I know, like, you are following.
Yeah, so Sam, I think what you're asking us is if you have two building projects, one in the mainland and then one maybe at the beach or close to the sea, if
Mhm,
they are all supposed to be six-story building
mhm,
each, okay, on these two different locations, are we
mhm,
going to require the same foundation for the same, these two projects, building projects? Um, yeah, I think no,
mhm,
because the one on the mainland might actually require a certain depth, but then we need
mhm,
to add a little bit more to the
mhm,
one by the sea or at the beach,
mhm,
given the tidal waves and the other energy that is going to come from the ocean or the sea
mhm,
hit the building so hard and the
mhm,
foundation of the building. So if we want to have them lasting, we need to add or invest more in the foundation at
mhm.
the beachfront, or much more than the one on the mainland. That's my opinion. But
Okay.
I think people can share theirs as well.
Okay. I think you got like the phrasing of the question, correct. The solution also, correct. Yeah. And we could also, think about this, in terms of the materials, as well, right? If I want to build, like a, oh, sorry, this is what type of preparation has to be. A wooden style building, okay? Let's take a look at this. All right. Yeah, wooden style. It's a simple wooden style. Let's take a look at the foundation. All right. It's just, like directly on the, floor level. Like, yeah, there's no digging. All right. Versus the ocean front, building where we have to, really dig. You can see the materials for the foundations, will be different. This is, more like wood. As for the ocean front, you may, need to use maybe like, cement, or maybe like, even if it's wood, you need to, probably dig, deeper. Right? In America, we use a lot of wood. In Ghana, I know we use a lot of cement. In other, developing countries, we use, cement a lot. Um, so let's
Some
go
there's
back
a
to,
in the chat. So
is there a question?
I think there's a contribution in the chat from Arnold. He was saying that
And
the correct foundation depends on the weight of the building and the anticipated stress the building will have on the ground. And this is relative to the height and weight. It says the beach scenario requires stronger foundations. So when we think of the nature of the soil at the beach, it is quite softer. So I think that's also going to influence that. And even the materials you use at the beach too are going to be different from the mainland. Yeah, that's a good one.
that's a really great, contribution. Now, I have a question. This is, like very legitimate. Right? Do all foundations need to be deep? Can someone answer apart from, Humphrey and, just for now? Feel like, do all foundation need to be deep? And the answer is no. Okay. Do all foundations,
Yeah, hello, Sam.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think all foundations need to be deep. It's like you were asking, dependent on the kind of structure you want to put on it. So
Great.
to conserve resources and, make the process faster, you wouldn't want to make an overly strong foundation for um, maybe a wooden structure or something. So it kind of depends on what you want to do with it.
Great. So not all foundation needs to be deep, right? You could so things like this, right? Like if you are building, this, like maybe on the mainland, with like, for example, not, a waterlogged, area, something, like in the city or something. Like, you don't need to, you know, dig a deep, foundation, for this, but it's going to serve the purpose, right? It's going to serve the purpose of, probably, you could use this for what? Like a workshop or something where you have your tools, right? And then you could do, your cutting, your carving, your molding, and all these kind of things. It could even be a store, right, where you have like a table, and then you be trading, farmers market, on a Saturday, Sunday. You can be trading, maybe vegetables, flowers, like candies, or like like even have like some sort of exhibition, like fashion, something you can hang in your clothings, inside, right? And then you could sell. You could have maybe like some hangers, and then a little wardrobe, inside or even outside, maybe like a rack, and so you could even sell shoes or something. It is serving the purpose of sales, workshop, and all those kind of things. It is doing it. Okay. It is serving the exact purpose, but we don't need it to be deep. Okay. We're just building, some conceptual understanding, of some of these things, so that when you see them, in your work, or you see them, really coming out, you can talk about it. But then if you want to build like a multi-purpose, building, you may need, something, deeper, right? I'm thinking this clarifies a lot. I'm going to pause here for questions. How much are we doing on time? Yeah, maybe in 15 minutes we can leave. So can we mention like, a few, like, foundations, foundation model. So I don't know if I'm right or wrong, I could be wrong, but in AI, okay, the process of constructing a foundation is called, okay, let's write it down, right? It could be wrong. I think it's called pre-training. All right. And we'll learn why it's called training when we talk about learning. Okay. So the process of making a foundation is called pre-training. Okay. Just making the foundation. So this is the process of making the foundation. It's called pre-training. Okay. Where you train your model, you freeze it, and then you could either use it. If you create a foundation and you don't finish the structure, you could still sleep on the land. Right. You can train the model, and that's it. You can either use it or build upon it. Okay. And then once you train the model, once you pre-train, you can either use it, you can fine-tune it. Okay. So once the model, I'm making less. Once the model is trained, you can either use it, fine-tune it, and use it. I think there is also something called embedding. Yeah. Okay. So let's go back again. Okay, so what's the difference between LLM and foundation models. So my intuition is that LLMs are a subsection of foundation models, right? So you could think of foundation models as the parent, right? And LLM as maybe a child. Okay. And why is it called LLM? LLM basically means a large language model. Okay. That's what LLM is. We learned what model is. Our imagination about reality. And there has to be a way to really describe our imagination of reality. There has to be a way to describe the process that is underneath this reality. There has to be a way to use or apply this imagination of reality. Okay. I'm not a philosophical student. I don't have any philosophy training, so I hope you would pardon me. Okay. So it's a language model, right? It's a language. You could have a height model. Right? You could have a musical or a sound model, or like audio model. You could have a protein model. You could have a nucleotide model. You could also have a language model, right? You could have a pathology model, which is basically like tissues, like photographs of tissues. You can have an image model, as well. Right? You can have an image model. It's very large. Right? It's very large. Last week we were looking at the size of some models in Hugging Face, right? It's very, 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 very large. That is why it's called large. And it's a model and it's a language. Okay. So we've listed some examples foundation models. I think like it's a little bit challenging to say this, but I would say, and like I stand to be corrected, and I'll correct myself with more evidence. I would say that ChatGPT, ChatGPT maybe 5.5. It's a foundational model. It is not open to us to really fine tune it, adapt it, and all those kind of things. I think it's a foundation model. May have heard of something called AlphaGenome. It's a foundation model. It takes nucleotide and outputs like some things, nucleotide in addition to other things. That's a foundation model. 3-4 weeks ago, we had a presenter from the New York Genome Center who talked about is it SCGPT? Gene Farmer, transcripts farmer. I may be wrong, but these are foundation model. And he used some components of the foundation. He applied some of the components of the foundation model. He adapted it. He used it to answer specific questions about, how can I find, how can I do better deconvolution of various cell types? Okay. Okay. I'll pause here for more questions. Could you mention any foundation model? Could you mention things you think may be foundation models? It's a question to the audience. You could do a Google search, that's fine. Just make sure we are engaged.
So I think Ricardo works with some models. Probably you should throw some light on some of them that he uses.
Ricardo, give it to us. Give it to us.
No, sorry. It's just that I'm at home and I have some background sound. No, I was just about to ask you. So a large language model, basically every machine learning model, AI model, is a learning model. So the information that are inside the model are informations about how to learn from data. How do you think this can generate a word model, which is a model of reality?
I haven't really, explored, the semantics and applications, of, word models. It's something I'm still, trying to, dive into. I know they spoke about it a lot at the conference, and something that, Demis Hassibis, has been really talking about. So I would be, very, very, how do you call it? I think, honestly, I think I wouldn't be able to answer, these questions because I haven't, really explored it, much. But I would, definitely try and see if we could get, speakers on this on this forefront to be able to really help me and other people also understand the applications of word model. I don't know. Basically, it's my elaborated response to I don't really know. Yeah, and the floor is open to other people who have probably applied it.
I haven't applied that too.
Okay. Shadow, how about you? Have you, applied word models in your work anywhere?
No, Sam. I haven't.
Okay. Well, sis,
I haven't applied it myself. Okay.
Trinitas, Charles, Aqua, Olive, Jacqueline, Elvis, Philip, Abby, Elvis, Arnold, Daniel, Christina, Moses, Venice, hey, Lambert, I see you. It's nice to see you, Lambert. You are here, Lambert. It's nice to see you, basically. Yeah. So, Humphrey, I think, this is definitely, this is something we need to do when speakers for word model. Okay, can someone mention any any model he or she thinks may be a foundation model? You could ChatGPT, Meta AI in WhatsApp or something. Just give us some response, please. Let's keep this engaging, please.
All right, so I think there's a question. Irenaeus is asking if we have Mythos, Fable, Sonnet, Opus, are they all foundational models? And I think yes, they are actually foundational models because these are some models you can leverage on to build on something. So I think the explanation Sam gave us on the foundation, we know that foundation serves as the basis for anything. Somebody can leverage Fable, like in a layman's understanding, somebody can actually take Fable, for instance, as an example, and then use it to build something. So as a foundation model, there's a layman's explanation. Opus can be used to build something. Let's see. Okay. So Claude is an LLM, but then it has different models like the Haiku, the Sonnet, the Opus, and Fable. Matus, I think the person who asked. Yeah, so Google's Gemini is also a foundation model. Yeah, thanks.
So you may need, number one, access and, our permission. Access and our permission to, build on top of, someone else, foundation. Just think about, it this way. I'm sure around you there is a construction. There may be constructions, going on. Someone can be like, okay, all right, I'm doing this construction. It's a public benefit project. You could come on it. Right? There are some resources on it. You could come and you could use, some of the resources. You could adapt it, so on and so forth. Right. Most construction sites are closed to you and I. Right. We don't have permission to, use the resources or the tractor and the scaffold and all those kind of things on people's construction sites. As far as I know, when it comes to physical properties and land. Right. So I wanted to, bring this idea about closed and open source or open weight models. Right. Some of the models are closed. Like Claude is really, 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 really closed. All right. There is Gemma 4 by Google. By Google DeepMind. This is open. All right. So you could take it, adapt it, use it, and come out with, like whatever you want. All right. You could see the weights, how the models, learn, tune the model, and come out with your, stuff. Kimi 3. I think it's open. It's open weights, open source. So it's open. And most of this, biology or life sciences related, models are also most, or some are open. Especially if your research was funded by grants from maybe the governments or from philanthropic organizations that really require you to make your research findings public. Okay. Okay, so most of Anthropic's modules are very closed. All right. But there is most of GPT models are also closed. But then there is also GPT OSS. GPT OSS, it came, I think, last year by OpenAI. That's OpenAI's. That's OpenAI's, open source. Wait, model. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's available on Hugging Face too.
It's available on Hugging Face. Yeah. Yeah. And we could also look at this Evo 2. All right. This is a DNA foundation model. DNA foundation model. You want to use it? You could go to Hugging Face and get it. There's some information about the organization. And They have other models, I think called state. What I'm looking for is Evo 2. I can't find it. I can't find it. But you can also access it online. It's a Evo Designer. It's a genomic foundation model capable of generalist, prediction and design across DNA, RNA, and protein. All right, so you could design DNA, RNA, and proteins. If I go to ChatGPT, what's that? If I go to ChatGPT, right, write a one-page, poem about Anansi. Anansi is a fictional, character in the African, culture. And Odyssey, it's also like a character in Greek stories. All right. So write a one-page poem. Damn, how can I make such mistakes? About Anansi, as they say. So this is the request. And what I'm getting out is a text, all right? It's a text structured in something called stanza. So I think this is the first stanza, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seven, eight, nine. Oh, that's it. What's the question? All right, thank you, Ricardo. See you. Thanks for joining us. All right, so I gave you the text, and I'm getting out of text. All right. I'm going to give it a text. And I'm going to say, this is, great. Now make 2 images to describe the poem. I'm giving it a text, and I'm expecting image. Image is not text, right? And the image could contain, the text. Oh, I didn't know I was offline, but this is me. So let's wait for it a little bit. Just
Yes, while we wait, I I want to mention that the Evo 2 is actually on Hugging Face. So if
Oh,
you
that
check
is
it out,
great.
yeah, it's on Hugging Face. Yeah. Oh, that's the image.
That's the image. So if you watch the Odyssey or if you read the Odyssey, right, there are elements of the Cyclops, right? So this one-eyed, guy, human eating, one-eyed, giant who was, chasing Odyssey. There are elements of, Hades, the dead. Odyssey had to, go to, Hades and, do, some things, those kind of things. I don't know where this snake is coming from. I, never saw, the snake when I was reading. But then there is also, an element of, the animals. There was this, gorge that it's able to turn, individuals. So he turned Odysseus sailors or men to animals, because they were, eating, some way like gluttons or so. Um, right. So this is an element, of it. I don't know where the gold, it's, really coming from, but I think, at some point, his men, thought, he was hiding, something, from them. What I don't see is the sirens. Right? I don't see the sirens. The mermaids with the melodic voice, that can really turn you to like they have probably an impulsive song, and that could kill you. So he tied himself. He bound himself. I think this is probably Zeus, something, or maybe this is Odyssey or something. All right. I don't know what this picture is showing, but then this is basically showing like some kids around the fire, by the fireside, telling stories, with Anansi the spider, as we know, and some African themes as well. What I want to show you from this exercise is that I gave it text, a prompt, a request for a one-page poem. It was formatted with a title with several stanzas, maybe like 10 stanzas of the poem. You can read this. I mean, it's in the public ChatGPT platform. And then I followed up with another prompt or request. And based on all that you've written, show me images to really depict the story. Text to image. There was an intent and a purpose behind it. Okay. Now let's apply the framework to Evo 2. All right. So in ChatGPT, what was the input to ChatGPT? Can anyone else besides Humphrey and Shadow and others answer? Faustina, what was the input to ChatGPT? If you're there. Maybe let me type it.
Stan, please, what's the question?
What was the input to ChatGPT? I'm going to highlight it here. What's the input to ChatGPT? What type of input is this? Is it an image? Is it audio?
Hi, Sam.
Yeah. What's the input to ChatGPT?
So it was a text.
It was a text, all right? It was an English text, all right? It was an English text. The second one, what was the inputs again?
Another text.
And what was the output for the second one?
Sam, it's another text.
And what was what is the output to this? What was the output?
And the output is an image.
The output is an image. Okay. Now I'm also going to demonstrate, something else, right? Instead of, just, writing an English text, I'm going to say merci. Merci is French for thank you. Okay. Merci. And all of a sudden, ChatGPT is speaking French with me. Avec plaisir, those kind of things. Je suis ravi, que cela vous, play. Okay. Now I'm lost. Right? But it's a text. But the output is not just a text. It's a French text. Merci. Et bon. It's encouragement to, do some pronunciation or something. That's it. Okay. There is intent. Okay. So what I want to finish with is like, how do we, and I think I have gone through the problem also. What can I use a foundation model for? Sometimes you get new tools and you're wondering, what can I use it for? Sometimes, so you have a phone. What should you use the phone for? If you get a fork, what would you use it for? You use it to eat. Okay. So I think, for me, what, I was thinking about is that, first of all, think about the inputs and outputs to the model, right? Maybe you could start listing the inputs, a text, or it could be the outputs, a text. Okay, what type of text? Can it be formatted in a certain way? Right. So if you think about the inputs and outputs, this will really help you to sort of like start thinking about what is the application of the foundation model. It's more so like a thinking framework. And if you get the output, what can you really use it for? And I think this is where we are usually stuck. What can I use this Anansi story for? Okay. I can post it on Instagram and get likes, and get, opportunities or something. I can also print it and, market it to, individuals that are interested in, folk tales and fusion between different culture folk tales, right? These are things you could use it for. Okay. So we could take an example. Generate an email, right? So generate an email to apologize for my mistake. All right. You're going to use it to do something. And then you could think about what sort of reaction do you want to elicit? Forgiveness, maybe a reply, or something. For code, you could say maybe like, generate, code, what type of code, maybe R Python code to do what? To analyze maybe like, DNA sequences or mutations, or something. But then to actually, get what, from it, how do you want to apply this, this analysis of DNA sequences, right? So generate what? Once you think about the inputs, outputs, you can start thinking about, like this framework, generate, what? That means you have an idea about the inputs and output. To do what? And then, which expected response. With that, I'm going to end, here. And now, we've, gone past, the time, but I'm going to end here. Hugging Face is a great, resource where you can get a lot of models. Okay. So this really lays the foundation for many other talks that will be coming. We've learned what models are, why are models important, how to communicate models. We've seen the need for mathematics in models, okay? We've seen models like, foundation models, language models, image models, and now we're talking about word models. And then I also created, like a small, course. Yeah, you might not be able to access. I cannot access it. I think my own website is blocked by my institution. They think it's a crypto website. But there is a, like there is a little, course here, which extended reading if you want to look at it and then more. Oh man. Basically. And I'm gonna stop here, okay, and ask for questions now. Lots of questions from you. Okay, I'm gonna stop here.
Yes, thank you so much for the session. I think this was really, really good, very resourceful. Yeah, so please, we've opened up for questions. If you have any question, can you draw attention? Okay. So next week, sorry, same time, 2 p.m. Ghana, GMT, Ghana time actually. We are going to be here. So download some models, okay?
Yeah, I think that's what we should do, like the
Yeah.
practical session. I'm sorry I
Yeah.
took a lot of time, but I think this was important too,
Yes, very true.
to really learn. But
Yeah.
Yes, I have a question.
yes, give it to us. We
So
love questions. Difficult questions we cannot even answer. Give it to us. Yeah.
what? Okay. So I have a question regarding foundational models as we discussed, right? Do you
Mhm.
think that in order for us to build a foundational model, there always
Mhm.
has to be like a repository data, for example, or like a database. For example, if you take AlphaFold,
Mhm.
you know that in order for it to predict the protein structure, like it depends on uh, information from several databases, including nucleotides and protein, sort
Yeah.
of databases to be able to make the prediction of the new sequence that you presented. Do you think
Right.
that this is the same for every single type of foundational model, or
Well,
there
I
are
mean, you
differences?
could think about it as modeling, all right? Which goes back to the first line. You could think about this as modeling. We want to create a representation of either an observation or a process, or an observation and the process behind it. You want to make a, a representation or like a conceptual. We need a way to really like imagine, let's say, languages, right? And what is the process of languages, right? Communication. What is the process of writing, semantics, and all those kind of things. And then you can think about translation, right? So because we just saw that ChatGPT could talk to us in French and English, merci, ananse,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
it is, there has to be an idea of translation. There has to be an idea of sentence construction. There has to be an idea of story formation. There has to be an idea of writing in a prose. There has to be an idea of how do you call it, poems really look like. There has to be ideas of like cultures. Culture can be communicated through languages. So we saw that ChatGPT was able to give us cyclops about
Right.
Greek, ancient, like Greek culture, right? And maybe Zeus, but this time it's black. And that's it. It's an African culture, right? There has to be this ideas and connotations culture. And how do you get this? It's through observation, right? So you need data. You need some data to be able to, model, some stuff. There are some types of model which is more theoretical, like, I think X and Y can be together or maybe, different. But in my opinion, I think you may need some amount of data to be able to ground your reality thing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's what I think. Okay, too. Thank you, too. Lambert, you have a question for us? It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to hear from you. I
Yeah.
don't have any questions. Yeah.
It's good to see you. It's good to see you. Moses. How are you, Charles?
Yes, hello. Yeah, I don't have any question.
No any question. Yeah. So I mean that, in that case, that really concludes today's section.
I have a question.
Great. That's what I was waiting for. Give it to yeah.
So it's regarding foundation models. I think it ties back to the philosophy of how you explain in it. So
Mhm.
we understand that foundations are static, right? They basically are the pillars that hold things together.
Mhm.
I was just imagining it with the one bedroom apartments with the multi-complex apartments.
Mhm.
Knowing so well that our perception of what we define as real world, it changes with time. Do you
Mhm.
think we'll get to a place whereby foundation models not becoming static, but more of like a dynamic model that can adapt to, let's say, the project demands that I'm building a one bedroom apartment. And so knowing
Mhm.
what the end game needs, it's readjust its foundational framework to adjust to the task. And comparatively to, let's say, you're building a five-story building. So it's a grounded foundation, but it's very much dynamic like culture. What do you think about
Well,
that
I mean,
probability?
this is a really great question. I forgot to say that, training is really expensive. I mean, the current approach of training and learning, um, or creating, the model, it's, can be very expensive in terms of money and in terms of energy, in terms of, time, as well. Now, one of the biggest, breakthrough, I think it's called reasoning, right? So you train, you have a set of ways, to do these things, but can you allow the, model to go through this, step by step to really do extrapolation, inductions, and, reason about, things, right? So reasoning is, one way to, like, really, counteract the, expense that goes, with, training. Um, I would also, say one of the other breakthroughs was, agentic capabilities, right? So for models that can, really, do work, for models that can, really do work, I think one of the biggest breakthrough is the agentic, capability. Now, for, specialist, models, like, protein, models, and, maybe, like, DNA, models, there is, the current understanding or belief that the more we learn, the more we learn, um, which is, basically the bigger the model, the better we can make, better predictions about, reality. So there's something called scaling laws. And that has been one of the, biggest, contributions by, OpenAI and Anthropic. And Anthropic is, really using it. And it's also being applied, in protein, models, as well. Specifically the ESM, models, and the, BiHub, BiHub, models from, I think, the Chan Zuckerberg. I may be wrong, sorry. Zuckerberg. Um, like, so scaling, and then, now there is, Jira. uh, I'm following Elizabeth Wu, Jira, Bio by Elizabeth, Woods. What's the name of this guy? I've got him. I think he's in Europe now. Right. The bigger your model, the better you could learn and generalize and make better predictions. But to answer your question, training is very expensive. So doing real time, training, the current approach, becomes very prohibitive. Maybe with like abundance of energy and abundance, of resources, you could toss them through out, models like that. But yeah.
Thank you.
Also, I haven't built a foundation model before. This is a big, disclaimer. I haven't not built a foundation model before. So take these things with a grain of salt. These are things, from reading and really, trying to really understand like what exactly is this black magic. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing that struck me when you were giving the feedback is the reasoning of the foundation models. I think probably when we get to that point, this becomes an obsolete question whereby the model can then decide, like with self-intuitions and whatnot, through the black magic, to shift gears and know that, okay, yes, I think probably at this particular point, we may have to shift to maybe a different sub-foundational model if there's ever something like that. So it's basically pulling the shots because it has some level of reasoning.
Yeah. Oh, and also I have to also add, something. There's something called embedding, right? So how are the units of your model similar to each
Cross-talking.
other? How are they similar to each other?
Okay.
The word king and queen are very, similar in space compared to the word king, queen, royalty are very similar compared to the word whales, dogs, and maybe cars. Right. So if you add an additional word, castle, you see that it will be now similar to king, queen, royalty, castle. If you add the word castle, where would it fall? It will fall a little bit close to king, queen, royalty. Right. So there's something called embeddings. Right. And if you could, train the embedding well, you extract embedding and sort of like, projects your new information on the embeddings, you could learn a lot. So, so not just reasoning, but also embedding is really useful technique.
Thank you.
Questions. Benny's questions. This is the time to ask the questions. Okay, so with that, we can end today's session. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity to learn from you.
That's right. Hello, Sam. Can you hear us?
Yeah, it's a